Hey, I'm not Patrick. Can you guys hear me?
That was weird.
Yeah, I think I kicked off whoever was
I can't hear you though, Drew.
Okay, now I can hear you. Sorry,
You're
now
talking,
we're
I
on
can't hear
trying to
you.
turn my camera on. I'm running to a, damn it, where's my camera here? Start video. I have something I was show on the video today on our Maker Mades.
Wow.
You got a haircut, Drew?
Oh yeah, I got rid of my hair.
Yeah.
So I'm doing a quick phone interview real quick. Gaston's here, Dale's jumping in, and then I'll be back here in just a minute. But
Okay.
I'm here beside. Yeah, I made it giant stencil so we can do some fun stuff.
Oh, sweet. Yeah.
So y'all be branded in here.
Awesome. Yeah. So sorry that for those of you that are joining, somebody else was on the Zoom link and I kicked him off. So sorry about that. Sorry it took us a sec to get on there, but we are going to go over, some different tips and tricks and stuff like that. Help everybody get started. Before we kind of get too far into it, check, we are recording, so that's good. Awesome. So we're going to post this on our YouTube. So afterwards, so everybody knows, so then other people can go and kind of check it out and see what's going on. And I want to give everybody a guide update. I know that y'all don't want to hear excuses, so all I'm going to say is it's really hard to run a business in a global pandemic, and we know that there are issues with the guide because we had the guide outpaced our shipment change, and we're working on it. We're getting everything worked out, and also instead of doing like incremental things, I want to fix the whole frame section too. So next week will be a new version of the guide that has all the correct instructions for installing it on rails, which I have one right here if we need to go over it and kind of see how it is, if it's a little bit different if you got your M2 like that. And then the other thing is making sure that all the frame specifics are all just easier to understand, and just that frame guide section is all built. So just wanted to let y'all know those are two things that we're definitely working on. And hopefully we'll even have a frame build video next week too. And probably a new build video on this one. That's because the other one has the old like build design. So I want to let everybody know. So if you got questions about that, we'll absolutely walk you through how to get everything built or anything together. I just wanted to let everybody know, get everybody on the same page. So yeah, does anybody have any questions or anything that they've been diving into? Nobody's got any questions? That's fine. I mean, that's cool. I can keep chatting about stuff. So we got the new version of Makerverse is still in beta, and I still don't know exactly when that's going to be launched, but it will be launched in the app stores too. So it'll be in the Windows and Mac stores when it's all done. And I haven't been involved in that beta process, so I'm not sure about features. So if you're using the beta version, then you can just hit up the GitHub repository and get your questions answered on there, because I haven't been using it yet. I've been on the other side of using the other version of Makerverse 1.1.6. So yeah, you guys can put questions in the side there too. Payton's in there helping answering questions, and Joel's here too. He is the tech support aficionado, and he's going to help with it. If anybody has any questions about Maslow, because I hardly know anything about Maslow, and then he can answer those as well. So does anybody have any questions about their build or frame or cutting or general CNC questions?
Hey, Drew, is Chris joining today?
No, Chris is not joining today. I am Chris today, or Patrick, or whomever you would want to say.
You look like Patrick from here.
What's up?
It says Patrick, so.
I know. Yeah, it says Patrick. I think I maybe kicked off Chris or Patrick, whoever was using this, but to start the training.
Well, that's okay.
So Robert or Mike or Taney, y'all have any questions? Can I help you all with anything? You can type them if you want. You can type them in the chat there on the side. There's the chat, or you can ask them. Yeah.
I have a question. What's the difference between the Maslow and the Maker's Made? Because my buddy has a Maslow and he's trying to sell it to me, and I'm confused what the difference between M2. You know what? That's why that's why I added myself to this chat.
Yeah, absolutely. So the big difference is the M2 is an upgrade to the Maslow. So the Maslow was designed in, I believe, 2017 as a CNC kit that can cut full size, like 4x8 plywood that you can chop stuff up with. And they're like through the open source process and just working on developments, the M2 is an upgrade to the Maslow. So it changed a lot of things to make it easier to go through, easier to calibrate, more accurate, and just basically built on that solid foundation of the Maslow. So the M2 is an upgrade to that. So either one of them you can get. Just the M2 comes, it's a little bit less maybe DIY, because the Maslow is definitely an entire kit. Everything is in a kit box. And the M2 though, it comes with the Z assembly right here. This is probably the biggest upgrade. Is it has this Z assembly just to make it easier and more accurate for your designs and your cuts and things like that. Because you have to build it all yourself and like cut out these parts of wood and things like that with the Maslow. I'd say those are the biggest differences between them. So if his is already built, then like, yeah, you can totally still use it.
Okay, because of his movement, like he has to move, he's trying to sell it off to me. And can I upgrade the existing kit to an M2?
You can, yeah. So that's called an upgrade kit, and it basically is this Z-axis assembly that you can take it and upgrade your kit. So it has a new Arduino board, and then it has the new upgrade for the Z-axis, and then you put that all together, and that's called the upgrade kit. So yeah, totally. And then you'll use the same router, the same frame. If he sells you the frame too, that'd be sweet, because then you have all the workspace already built. Then that'd be sweet. You can use the same sled and everything too. You just like upgrade those parts.
Okay, what about you mentioned earlier about software? Is the Maslow using different software than the M2?
For now, yes. So that beta version that I mentioned, great question. So that beta version, that will have the Maslow added to it. So you'll be able to utilize it with, when it's live, you'll be able to utilize Makerverse with the Maslow. But right now you have to use ground control as the main control software to utilize it. So it's a little bit different. From what I hear, it's more complicated. And I'm not an expert at ground control, so I'm not entirely sure all of the tiny differences with it, other than there's a lot more calibration steps and a lot more stuff you have to go through with ground control than you would go through with Makerverse.
Hey Drew, is that still the case? Even if he upgrades to the upgrade kit, he can use the Makerverse if he upgrades, right?
Yeah, if you upgrade, then you get the new do board and the new and then you can use Makerverse. Yeah, great question. Great add-on there, Payton. Because yeah, the old version of Maslow just has a different Arduino, so we had to add that to Makerverse to be able to utilize it.
Drew, Robert has a question. He sent me privately on accident. He's trying to set up his M2 and he can't get the X to travel to run straight and level. So hopefully he can explain that.
Okay. So is it going like, is it just going at a big slant? It's going up or down or something along those lines? That's what I'm guessing. So there's the couple things to check. The first thing is making sure all of your measurements are exact on your top beam. So especially like this right here, this has to be level. So those measurements have to be exact when they're on there for it to make sure that when those chains are pulling back and forth, then it's not at a weird angle or a weird slant. So that's the first, is just making sure that your frame is all set. The next thing is making sure that your wasteboard isn't bowed. So I had to put a cross beam across the back, and the new version of the frame guide is going to have that change to where, as I'm sure you know, with MDF and plywood, it's going to bow out a little bit, and that can cause it to slant too, especially when it gets to a certain point. Well, then if it's bowed, it would like push up and it can kind of move it around. And that's if you're just moving it around when the bit isn't running. And then if you're running and working on cuts or doing something like that, then it gets into a more like software running type of thing. So it could be that your calibration measurements, so just double checking all of those. And basically what that is making sure that you have the exact measurement from where the chains would be stretched across between the new motors down to the top of your wasteboard. That's got to be at least 18 inches from that top right there. And if that's off, that can kind of throw some of the math off. If that's off even by a little bit, it's got to be like exact, like right on. And then making sure your distances between the motors are correct too. So from the outside, like 8 o'clock and 4 o'clock position on your motors across, like measuring that and making sure that's exact as well. So I know that was a bunch of things to check, but mainly let's like check everything first on your frame and making sure that's all rocking and rolling, and then check out your calibration settings and stuff like that inside of Makerverse. That's what I would recommend. And then if you're still having problems cutting and it does it with like different materials, then it could be something with your router. It could be like your RPM speeds or something like that. It's one of the difficult things about working with these types of robots is it could be a whole bunch of things. Same with 3D printing. Like you just got to kind of narrow it down. So I guess to go through that list again, number one, check all your measurements and make sure that everything is level in your frame build. 2, check your wasteboard and make sure that it's not bowed. And then 3, check your calibration measurements and make sure all those are good. And then 4, increase the RPM speed on your router.
This is Robert. Can you all hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. What's up, man?
Hi, yes, thank you. Sorry, I didn't mean to chat on the private. I think all that sounds good. The travel is actually in an arc, so it goes down about 1/8 of an inch away from center. So if I jog to the left or the right, it drops 1/8 the further away it gets from center line. So going through that toll list that you gave me, will that'll pull that arc out of the travel as well?
That makes me think it might be the wasteboard. Yeah, if it's going from the middle and it's arcing, because that means it's probably bowed out and then it might be coming back. So that'd be what I would guess. You might need to put something behind it and just like get it screwed in so it's straight.
Okay, great, thanks.
And then yeah, if you're still having problems, you can send us a message through Facebook or email, and we'll help you troubleshoot and get it going. Or you can join next week too if that didn't work, and we can kind of walk through it. Like, do you have it there with you or?
I do. I'm actually staring at it right now.
Okay, cool. Well, yeah. If you want to check out those things and see if it's one of those, then yeah, we'll dive in.
Okay, I'll fiddle with it. Thank you.
Cool. Yeah, you bet. Does anybody else have any questions to get started? Anybody working on any cool projects? No, nobody's got any cool projects. I've been 3D printing stuff. I haven't seen anything this week. I've been 3D printing like nuts. So I'm gonna go to learn how to measurements. Let's see, Mike, let me check out your question, bud. So Mike says, is there somewhere I can go to learn how the measurements and the geometry are used to control the position? I want to understand why it matters and add the exact correct distance to the top of the wasteboard. Yeah, so I also want to know that, and also don't know all the math. I've actually been learning that, the like more behind the scenes stuff this week, really, and last week, because I'm 3D printing aside. So I know lots about 3D printing, but I'm learning about more and more of the back end of the M2. And there's a couple things that go into the math that I know about. One of them is making sure that wherever your wasteboard is, it's got to be that 15-degree angle. That's what these like stud mounts that are on the wall, they're set to that like 15-degree angle. So the whole thing is based off that 15-degree angle and the exact center of your wasteboard. So the math and the algorithms go off of that center. So if you move your center to another place, it can cause weird things to happen. So that's why the work offsets are so important. You always want to have the center of your machine be the exact center. So like 4x8 plywood doesn't mean that you can just put in the 4x8 measurements. You should measure your exact length of your MDF or plywood to find the exact center of yours and make that the exact center for all the algorithms and all the math to go through. So everything is based off of the center of your wasteboard, the angle, the 15-degree angle, and then your router has to be centered in the exact middle of your sled. So that router bit has to be in the exact center. So that's why it's important to like slide that Z-axis back and forth and get it in the exact center, because all the algorithms kind of go off of that point. So it's based off that angle, it's based off the angle of the center of your wasteboard, and then it's based off the measurement of the top of your wasteboard, because you know where the center is, and then you have your exact wasteboard dimensions from the top of the wasteboard to the top of the chains, and then the distance between the chains. So that's where it moves around in XY because it doesn't have limit switches. So it can be like, you could literally have this, it could, be 300 or 400 feet across if you wanted to, if you could get that chain slack out of there. It could be that big, it's possible. So just trying to figure out exactly where it's going to go, like that's where you'd want to try to like find those measurements. So I don't know tons of the math behind it, but I know those are the variables that the math uses. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Hey, this is Mike. Can you hear me?
Okay. Yeah, I can hear you.
Hey, cool. Yeah, thank you. I think that helps a lot. I think it's intuitively, I guess, makes sense that, yeah, you want to be certain that you're giving it that point of reference at very perfectly the center between the two motors on, say, the x-axis. I guess, and now you emphasize, you re-emphasize the 15-degree thing. That seems like, yeah, that probably also intuitively makes sense that the math that it's using has to assume that as well. I guess the one that I struggled more with than still that feels a little bit less intuitive is what's going on the y-axis. It just feels, it still just intuitively feels a little bit arbitrary. Like, where are we really concerned about our reference points? Like, if the board starts from the floor or from, what the manual talks about when building the frame, your wasteboard is starting from 0 on the y-axis, and then moving up towards the chains, which I guess is like that really important reference point where the imaginary line that would, I guess, represent the horizontal line between the two teeth of the gears that the chains would come off of, I guess. And then measuring down from that to, I guess, what you're calling the top of the board, but then assuming that the board has a certain Y height and therefore coming up with, oh, so the center must be here. And that's just like, I think what we're getting at, this is like making it easy for a human to take these measurements that then get into an algorithm that's using all of that to say, oh yeah, that's where the guy just put this thing and is calling center. I get it. But getting my mind around all that would really be cool. I just like, I'd love to see it on paper somewhere.
100%. So we talked last week about doing those different versions of the guide and having like an advanced version and then like a beginner version. And that's something that I want to do as soon as the beginner version is done. I want to get down to those base measurements. Like, what are the most important things? So we talked a bunch like after on Thursday, like I've been just about the different ways of trying to make all of that easier. And especially that's what I'm doing with the frame section now is like, it's confusing. It's confusing. Like it just is. It's confusing to kind of figure out exactly what needs to be what. And it just needs to be pared down to like, all right, what are the 4 axioms to like frame building design that you just can't break because of the algorithms. And then your frame can just be whatever. It just has to be these 4 things. It has to have these 4 qualifiers, and that is something that I want to pare it down so anybody can be able to use it. And then they understand, oh, okay, I can put this on the side of a semi because I have these 4 things, or whatever they want to do. Perfect. So like I 100% agree. And that's what I want the guide to kind of turn into, to make it just more clear. I want to like a version of the guide on how to get started, but then an advanced version that's like, well, here's the why of like the why, basically, like, well, why does it have to be this way? And just to try to make that clear as possible. So 100% agree.
Awesome. I think the next generation behind us, whatever that is, a week from now or a month from now or whatever, that are building this after they've seen or had the opportunity to look at that more advanced version, they're gonna feel so much more confident when they're building theirs,
I hope so.
because the current one just feels a little bit. I was kind of mean when I first said it, not having, a human behind, a human
fine.
with feelings behind it. But yeah, my seeing that on the other side, my reaction when I first saw it was the manual just felt kind of amateurish, because it kind of assumes so much, and just said, well, use a 1x6 for the, to hold your wasteboard from the bottom. Use 2x4s and measure 96 inches between them. Things like that, you were just like, wait a minute, which of these numbers is really important? Because
Yeah,
I'm
no,
not
exactly.
necessarily going to build it exactly like this.
We've had the same discussions, because I mean that's the cool thing
Yep,
about
yep.
being like a DIY robot. And we're hesitant too. We don't want to just tell you, well, it only has to be this way, because it literally doesn't. You should literally be able to build it however you want. So
Yeah.
the part of that and like getting that all together, we want to do that too, because we want to do something that the community and like highlight things in the community. And like I would love to build out. I've got all kinds of grand plans to make it easier to understand, because I want to get to that core thing too, and to the core thing that people in the community have learned too, and just have that, all of that there in like one place where you can figure out, okay, these are the measurements I need to do. These are the things that are important. And then just like from there, you can just rock and roll. Because like
Awesome.
the 1x6, for instance, it's that thickness so the sled can go down to the bottom without it bumping into the edge. But it doesn't say that anywhere. And it should. Because that's why it's a 1x6 and not a 2x4 on the bottom, because then the sled doesn't slam into it when it tries to cut at the bottom. So like little things like that, absolutely. And then Joel posted a link there in the chat about the like the geometry and stuff, and the Maslow that kind of talks about some of those geometry questions. So if you want to dive in and find out that, like, because the M2, like we were talking before, is based off of the Maslow, obviously. So all those measurements and stuff, it's kind of like been built upon. So you can check that link out too, on like to see that geometry, which I also want to go and check out. Just click on it right now. Why not?
Awesome. I'm going as well. Anyway,
Oh yeah, here you go.
I'm gonna drop off for a second, and I'll be back in a bit. But before I leave, I just wanted to say thank you. It sounds like you really heard everything we talked about last week, and we're all feels like on the same page, and that's
Awesome.
cool.
Well, thanks. I appreciate you coming and sharing your feedback for sure. Absolutely. See you, Mike. Does anybody else have any questions? Taney or Robert, you got any questions? I'm calling you. Do you have a question? Like Socratic answering, just like calling you. What is the correct motor offset for a 4x8 frame? No.
No questions from me just yet. I'm going through and doing everything you told me to do, trying to get it done.
Cool. Okay, awesome.
Thank you.
Yeah, you bet.
Do you need me to come in and just talk to you, Drew?
I mean, yeah, if you want to. You know what I'm going to do right now? Not check the news.
Yep. That's what I'm going to do too.
See. I mean, it's not like there's anything huge going on right now.
No, my daughter went to the dentist this morning. First time.
Cool. That's pretty awesome.
No cavities.
Worried about it? No cavities? Oh, that's good.
Yeah. It'd be kind of concerning if she already had some cavities, because those teeth are pretty new. But
yeah, do you have to like wait in the parking lot and then they take in like one person at a time or something like that?
We did have to wait, but I of course went with her since she's 2. But yeah, it was fine.
Cool. Yeah, not too bad.
Yeah. That's the only thing happening in my life.
Woo! I'm still building my bike from scratch, but I've been procrastinating. Everything's been so busy. I haven't been working on it as much as I want to, but it is like right here from getting built. I just gotta do it. I really just need to wire the gears and then bleed the hydraulic brakes, and then it's done. It's just.
Yeah, you'll be finished just in time for the middle of winter.
Yeah. Hey, I'm all for winter running. I rode all through last winter. I mean, it's actually not that bad.
I mean, we have enough nice days where we are, but.
And when you get moving and your body's moving, it's like you just you don't need very many layers or anything, and it feels pretty good. It's actually a little bit better than like in the middle of the summer when it's just so hot and
Oh
you just
yeah, I hate
cool
that.
off. That's I kind of prefer when it's like chilly out on a bike for sure.
Whale?
Yeah. Yeah, I want to make some, so I have like some 3D printing modifications for it, for like my water bottle and things like that. And I found a way, well, I saw somebody that did it online, but like that makes a bike rack that holds your tire that I'm going to cut on my M2, and I'm going to design it and make it so I can like stand my bike up and like lock it into the wall. So I'm pretty pumped about that. So I'll share that with, if I do that, which I'm gonna do it. I'll put it in the marketplace and stuff in the fusion files and stuff, and get that all built, because I've been already, my current bike now is just like in my kitchen, so I have to like move it around.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to like sticking it up and like getting it out of the way a little bit. So
Yeah, totally. Totally.
Hey
what's that?
Patrick, I have
Yeah.
a question. I'm still
Yeah.
since I said this is my second day researching this stuff. I had a question regarding I understand the basic. It's like I've 3D printed and stuff. Based on what I've read, like the original Maslow uses, like you can use like ESO or any like Fusion 360 and then convert it G code and then use the ground control, which is connected. I'm still confused on, before this call, I didn't even know about the new software that you guys run. So in your process, if I design something on ESO, convert it to, this app, where is it available that I can actually take a look? Is this something I can download, the beta version? That's something I can download, or, where, just to play around with it and stuff before?
Yeah, totally. So I wouldn't recommend downloading the beta version yet, but we have like another stable version that's on our website. So you can find it on our resources page, and it's eventually going to have its own page on the website after this launch, really. It'll have its own website page because that is where it's going to add a lot of other stuff, because it's going to have the capabilities. We keep adding stuff to it where you can run any CNC machine or laser cutter from Makerverse, and eventually any 3D printer as well. It's going to use the Cura engine to run 3D printers. So you can get it right now from our M2 resources page. Yep, there we go. Payton just dropped the link in there. And you can find the Makerverse link, and you can use version 1.0.6, and that's the version that I use. And you can play around with it and kind of see how it works. It won't allow you to do tons of functionality if you can't connect. So I'm not even sure if it'll let you upload a G code to it, but you can kind of see what it's like. Because it likes to be connected to the do board before it'll like let you move stuff around. So it might not let you do that until you connect to it. Just so you know. I'm
just trying to figure out, should I upgrade? Like I said, that's why I said I had the opportunity when I saw your link. I said, I was wondering if, what, I didn't even know that the M2 was off the, Maslow and stuff like that.
Let me go to our
friend wanting to charge you.
I'm sorry?
How much is your friend wanting to charge you for his Maslow?
$100 with the whole, all the wood and everything all built.
Okay, so you should definitely do that.
Yeah, you should totally do that.
Okay. Do that, and you should upgrade, and then you'll be $400 in, and you'll be set.
Okay, and that's why I'm confused, because based on my research, he has the Z-axis, whatever he has, and then you guys have your own Z-axis. Now I got all confused on, which part is compatible, which ones, and do I need to rebuild the sled? I mean, I'm just all over the board at this point. Oh, totally. So I just dropped the link on how to calibrate your M2 using 1.0.6 that I made. So that's the YouTube video that can kind of show you the overview, since you don't have it to plug into it, that you can kind of see how it works and what it looks like. So okay, great. Because yeah, you can get it and like play around with Maslow and see if it's something that you want to do, but you're definitely going to have to go through all the calibration steps and all that kind of stuff with the Maslow. That's more involved and more complicated than the M2 version, because that was another huge update to the Maslow, is just making it easier to calibrate, where you just have to measure your top chain distance and then your distance between motors. So like that wasteboard distance, that motor offset,
and then the distance between, and then the center, and like those things that we talked about earlier when Mike was asking questions about it, like those are the things that base all the calibration off of, because the Maslow calibration is way more involved. I've actually not gone through that. Joel can speak to that. I can put Joel on the spot and he can talk about the Maslow a little bit, but it's definitely more involved. And then maybe Drew, I know you're not Drew, but I know you're hanging out in Drew's workshop and you work with Drew. Have you done the Maslow before too? No, okay.
Yeah.
What's your name, dude?
Gaston.
Destin. Okay. Yeah. So,
Yeah, they just have me working with the laser cutter right now. They keep saying, "Oh yeah, we'll get you on the Maslow," but it just whenever it happens. Yeah.
It's one. Yeah. Someday. Yeah.
Well, for $100, that sounds like a great deal. And then you could play around with it, especially if you're interested in getting into that kind of thing. And then you could even come up to this Zoom next week or whenever you have all the stuff and show us.
It's true. Yeah. And we can
That
help
would
you.
be awesome.
We can help you set it up.
So the other question I was researching just on while I was on this call was like the M2, like he's including the router, which is a rigid router, like how, so it's a full setup, and I'm just confused on, like, you have the 51 millimeter or whatever. I don't remember what the diameter to hold the, so when I have the unit, I can actually measure it. I mean, how much of the stuff that I have can be transferred to that unit?
All of it. Yeah. So the router alone is like $100. So like that's worth it. So so there's two clamps. There's a 71 millimeter that is the standard like M2 clamp. That's like right here. And then the rigid one, I think it's bigger. I think that's the 91 millimeter one.
And that's the one that comes with the upgrade kit.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. So that comes, I think you have to ask if you want the 71 millimeter. I think the default is the 91, isn't it, Payton?
The upgrade, yeah, because Maslow is such a, is more of a rigid router compatible machine. So you can buy a 71 millimeter clamp now if you want one, but yeah, you're set up perfectly for that.
Yeah, and then you're set, and then you could get it. So you could maybe like play around with the calibration and see if it's something kind of cool that you wanted to do, to see if you want to spend the money for the upgrade. I mean, that's the cool thing about like hobbyist tech, is you can kind of just like play around with it. And then depending on where you are, if you hate it, you could just sell it to somebody else.
Yeah. If it comes with a router, that's a great deal.
Yeah. It's definitely DIY though. Like you're going to have to troubleshoot and you're going to have to play with it and you're going to get frustrated with it. And it's like, okay, why is the robot not working? That's me. I'm the reason why it's not working. and you got to like play with it and try to like figure it out. Which is, I mean, that's, to me, it's fun to kind of like go through all of that. But I'm not saying that I've never been frustrated and just like, why is this robot not doing what I want it to do? So it's definitely a DIY thing.
No, trust me, I realized that because with 3D printing, I was one of the first ones, and I had the dual extruders and stuff like that. Now where it's almost prints on its own almost most of the time. So I know the frustration. Yep.
Cool. Have you built a 3D printer before?
I have. Yes.
Oh, you'll be fine then. Yeah, you'll be fine. I can tell you that this was it's more difficult to build a 3D printer than it was for me to build the M2. Absolutely, like hands down. So yeah, I think you'll be fine with that.
It's just because of the size of it, just it's overwhelming. That's all.
Yeah, I mean, it takes up a lot of space, like garage space and stuff, and where it's going to go. Depending on its frame design too, it might not have a chain like mine does here. It might be sticking up in the air and have like bungees and pulley systems. There's a lot of different types of Maslows that are out there. So
that's exactly the type it has bungee cords and stuff like that. So that's my concern is like, if I purchase it and like I just don't want to be upgrading and like I'd rather start fresh or like it sounds like I can it's pretty compatible, which is great. That was my main concern, because everyone talks about different styles and stuff, and I'm looking on YouTube videos and I just don't know what the difference of these units.
Yeah, absolutely. And you can get the upgrade chain. Like that comes, I think the upgrade kit actually comes with a chain. Maybe, I'm not 100% on that. Payton or Joel might know that. I'm not 100% on that, but I think it does. I'm pretty sure. If not, you can get the chain. We've got high quality chains on our website, or if you want to get one that's a little bit lower quality, you can go to like Home Depot or something like that and get one. But I think too, like it does.
Sorry, I'm going to check.
Okay, cool. So there's two awesome videos that I think are a great example of the M2 versus Maslow, and they're by Tim Sway, and he makes a guitar with each one. He made a guitar with the Maslow a while back, and he just now released a video where he did one with the M2, and he carved it out. So you can see all the differences and the things between them, and he's honest about his stuff. And he's an amazing maker that does some really cool stuff, and he's like blunt about his opinions about his issues and stuff that he had and all that. So he does the whole thing with a Maslow, and you can watch several of his videos about Maslow too. And then, but he does a guitar with it, and then he does a guitar with the M2 as well. So he's got pretty like honest opinion about the type of troubleshooting and stuff, and he's got tons of woodworking experience as well. So those are two videos that I'd also recommend. So they're by Tim Sway.
Okay, great. Thanks.
Yeah, you bet. They're probably both like 20 minutes, something like that. Robert, how's it going with your measurements? Everything looking good on your frame?
I don't think it does come with the chain. It comes with like a chain management solution, but not the chain itself.
Okay. Yeah, like maybe the quick links. That's probably the quick links.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the chain was like an upgrade to the Maslow that that I think a lot of people have with their Maslow now, because I think the Maslow base kit comes with a chain. So
yeah, I think it does.
Yeah, so it comes with the chain, because that was like an added upgrade that people started using. It was way easier than trying to do the bungees and pulley systems, and because the bungees would stretch out and all those different types of issues and whatnot. So, but I'm not an expert at Maslow. So
well, maybe I misspoken, because this one has bungees and chains. You know, like it has chains that goes through the gear, and then it has bungees.
Sorry, spring. I should have said spring, not chain. I misspoke. So like the spring between, so like the spring holding the chains together, like on mine, instead of bungees in them off to the side. I should have said spring. I'm sorry, I misspoke.
The upgrade comes with a spring, but not a chain.
Okay, but not the chains. Okay.
So are you saying the chain is just the regular chain, but the spring is the upgrade? Is that correct?
Let me send you a link to it, and you'll be able to see the chain, or I'm sorry, the spring. Now I'm misspeaking.
I guess I'm trying to ask is, what's the upgrade, and what's, like, is your chain different than the chain that it came with, or is it like a upgrade? That's what I'm trying to figure out.
No, I don't think so. I think that it used the same chains that the Maslow uses. I'm
okay.
Pretty sure, certain. Yeah. There you go. There's the upgrade kit on there. Payton just posted the link, so you guys can check it out. Taney, if you get it, what kind of stuff do you want to cut? Why do you want to get a CNC machine?
I think I'm always been a hobbyist, and my background is in automotive and in construction. So but I'm in the tech field now. I always just like woodworking, gadgets. So it was an opportunity when my buddy offered it to me. So I said, you know what, I'm gonna do a little research on it first before. He said he's moving. So I said, it's such a monstrosity to move, being like 8 foot. And, I said, I think that's what, lost my interest initially, was the size of the footprint. I knew about Maslow, but I never researched it just because it was so big. And I finally moved to a home that allows for it. And so I said, maybe I should check it out just before,
Yeah,
and I have kids that would benefit from it.
Where are you calling from, Taney? Are we
Cupertino, California. I'm in Cupertino, California.
California. Okay, awesome.
Cool. Mike's in
California.
California.
Yeah, Dustin, they have obviously tons of space because they're in like a workshop, so they can set up stuff. But mine is a smaller version of it. So I had to change the math in those settings that we talked about to get mine to function well. But mine's I cut the 4x8 in half, so it's a 4x4 frame. So you can do a smaller footprint and wall mount the top beam and stuff like that to get it to take up less space in like your garage or like a spare room like I have mine or something like that. So that's one of the things about it is like you can modify it however you want to use it, and change it to see what's going to work best for your situation. So you don't have to have that full size frame if you don't want to. You can modify it or mount it on a wall. That's another big thing with the M2 is we recommend that you mount it on a wall. If you don't already have a Maslow frame built, then you just mount it straight to the wall, and then that saves a lot of space too.
It looks great. I mean, having the metal frame, I understand metal, basically doesn't, bend. So basically, even like most woods have crowning in some form, and metal's just, it's basically as strong as you can, the thickness of the material or the, density of the material.
So is his frame metal?
No, his is definitely just the Home Depot special.
Okay, mine too. Yeah.
But yeah, this is great information. I love it. I mean,
cool.
That's why I think I'm going to purchase it from him, and then the next thing would be the upgrade to the M2. I think that's I love the idea of the Z-axis where it's actually beam driven, and instead of his like some worm gear, they sent me a picture of, and it was just, it looked like it wasn't.
Yeah, for sure.
You're very thorough in your research.
I'm sorry?
You're very thorough in your research of this product.
I am. I'm pretty much, that's why, I'm trying to understand it before, like my wife would kill me if it was something that just holds up, 8 foot in the garage. It just.
Totally.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, have you been on the owners group on Facebook? That's the main place where everybody is. And
yeah, I think I'm waiting to be approved.
Well, I'll go in there and make sure you are approved.
There you go. We'll do that right now. Yeah, we'll get you in there because then you can go and see what everybody else is doing and talk to people and you can ask questions like if you should get it and talk to people in the group too. It's a great resource right now. And we've been working on probably getting one that's off Facebook is what we talked a lot about in the last session too. It seems like there's a lot of people that would be into that. To have like another spot that's just easier to search and find information because it's just hard to find stuff in the group. There's lots of great stuff in there, but it's hard to dig it out. So that we've been talking about doing that as well.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest thing I noticed as my 1 day research on the stuff, 1.5 day, is that there's not a, all-in-one solution that, there's videos out there that just about specific topics. Someone just needs to do just like a quick overview of just what it takes to do from start to finish for a beginner. That's probably the biggest thing.
It's on the list for sure, man. So, how did you find this link when you researched?
I actually went on, so based on my search, I went on your, somehow I got to your site, and then on your site, I was searching that, and then I had questions about, I'm like, what is the M2? And I searched M2 versus Maslow. No one has any information on that. And then I was like, wondering what this kit was about. And I saw the Z-axis and all that. And I said, you know what? And I saw the link right below. It says Zoom meeting at 11 o'clock. I said, I had a staff meeting before then. I said, oh, I'll join this meeting right after.
Yeah. Cool. Okay. Yeah. So that's awesome. So it was hard to find, but you found it.
Yes.
Okay, cool.
You in the
I want to make it easy to find.
But if you did ask, you've been approved, but I don't see you. So here's a link just in case.
Yeah, let me.
Awesome, Robert. I'm glad you're narrowing it down, man. There we go. So then, yeah, hopefully you can get in there and you can jump around and ask questions and see what's going on. So.
Yeah, I remember these same questions too. So I definitely. So I joined the group again on Facebook, so I'm waiting for getting approved.
Payton, can you approve him? You jump in there?
I didn't see any requests, but let me go check again, make sure. Oh, there you are. Approve.
Thank you. I remember the question 13 minus 2. It was asked the same question twice.
I mean, I believe you. I don't know.
Oh, no, I know. It's just
Facebook's weird.
I agree.
That's true.
But yes.
Tis a wild place. Yeah.
I'm just trying to learn as much as I can. That's why I said, I join these meetings. It's only because I want to learn more about the hobby, and
I'm glad you did. Yeah.
Hopefully I can, contribute to it also.
Yeah. Sounds like you'd be a great member.
And we've got a marketplace too on our website. I don't know if you found that, where there's tons of projects and things, and we've been working on building that more and more and more, and it's been growing. Like, how many projects are in there now, Payton? Do you know?
I'm going to look.
Okay, because that's a place that you can find stuff too, both free and like paid projects and things that you can cut.
And you can sell on there too.
Yeah, little side gig.
So like dozens of projects.
Dozens.
A lot of which are free. I'll drop it right here in the chat.
Fill that chat up.
As a general rule of thumb, I have a question regarding, as a beginner, would you recommend using just regular plywood, or birch type plywood? Where's a good starting point?
I don't know.
I'm trying to make it the easiest. I know woodworking, but based on
okay, you probably know more woodworking than I do. So I have birch plywood is mine. And I know, like, obviously oak is a harder wood to use. A lot of people use MDF. I've seen a lot of people that I think MDF is probably the most common that people use. But okay. I honestly, I don't know what would be best. Maybe because the oak is going to be harder. So maybe you don't want to have such a hard wood at the end, when you're driving into it. Just because your RPM speeds might be different. Because if you're cutting like acrylic and then you run into the oak, like it accidentally goes to your wasteboard, and it could just like stop your bit, and then cause all kinds of weird stuff and break bits, and you're gonna break bits. And like I would probably say not a super hardwood, but I don't know. I don't really know the answer to that question.
Is the question around what would be a good material for a beginner
for the wasteboard,
start machining, or to use as a wasteboard? Yeah.
Oh. For the wasteboard, yeah. I would say, I don't know. Mike, what material do you have for your wasteboard?
MDF, and MDF is just the most dimensionally stable, perfect material. It's not, terribly strong, so you gotta have something to support it. But you can't beat it for just being dimensionally correct and stable. Flat, perfectly flat, perfectly, yeah.
And if you've got like, if that already has a wasteboard, that Maslow, then you could just use that wasteboard for a while. Then if you hate it, then you could just swap it out. And it's like $50, I think, to get like a 4x8 sheet of like MDF, probably something like that.
No, it's not the cost. I have some laying around. I just want to make sure, I'm worried about, slamming it more than anything else, like you mentioned.
Yeah, because you got to make sure that you don't have that bow. Because like my plywood, I had to put some stuff behind it because it bows more. So you just got to make sure it's nice and secure.
Yeah, I went crazy overkill on framing to try to avoid the bow. If I had it to do over again, I would not use dimensional lumber, 2x4s, because what I ended up doing is spending far more time accommodating for the inaccuracies in the dimensional lumber that I'm trying to use as a structure, than if I'd have just used something that was straight to begin with, because 2x4s lumber is never going to be anywhere close to straight. You can go through the whole darn pile at Home Depot and pick the 4 straightest 2x4s, and you still have some work to do. But I
agree.
think no matter what you use as your wasteboard, yeah, you're absolutely going to have to do something to get it straight from across that x-axis and not to bow, especially in that direction.
So what
I
we're going to
guess
recommend,
that's turning out to be really important.
yeah, absolutely. So what in the new version that I'm working on now, the new frame version, it's based off just like the main measurements. Like you build the wasteboard first before you mount the top beam. You put the wasteboard together, and then you put the top beam based on where your wasteboard is, just to make it easier because that measurement is the one that matters, like between your wasteboard and the top beam. So what we're planning on doing that, and we've been testing a little bit, is just using, instead of just 2 legs with a crossboard at the top, at the bottom that holds the wasteboard, put 4 legs in, and then that board across the bottom, that 1x6 that holds them together, holds those straight, and then those 4 boards, then your wasteboard's screwed into those. So then it helps to keep it straight all the way across. And then you've got now like 4 legs that are holding it. So that's like our current version now. And it's going to say like, this is in the guide, it's going to say, hey, this is what we recommend to help flatten it out. But if you want to put boards across the back or something like that, you can knock yourself out, and you can work on whatever you need to do to make sure that that's going to be straight and square.
Hey, Drew, this is Robert again. I have another question for you.
What's up, man?
What is the tolerance that you would suggest to use on some of the measurements you were describing earlier? So for example, the way I'm set up, I'm using levels to try to measure everything on the 15-degree angles rather than just going straight down from the motor to the top of the wasteboard, for example. I'm trying to follow the path that it should follow, I guess. But I want to verify that I'm doing that right. And what tolerance you think it needs to be within by the time I'm finished? So
as close as you can get it. So like these brackets are angled to 15%. So if you mount those brackets to the wall and then you mounted your wasteboard to them, or you've clamped them to them, however it is, it's 15 degrees and you're good, because it's going to be laid up against that, because it's going to be flat against it, and that should be fine. You should be ready to rock with that. But if you measure something, let's say you're like measuring the motor offsets or something like that, and it says 1800 and 300, 1835.287 millimeters. Put that exact 287, like don't round any of the numbers when you put them into Makerverse. Don't round anything. Like put it in whatever the measurement is that you get, put that measurement into it. That'd be my like word of advice. Like just try to get it as close as possible, because the more accurate you can get in your dimensions and your measurements, the more accurate your calibration is going to be able to get you down to those, like that couple millimeter tolerance level. So like that's as close as you can get it.
Okay, that sounds good. And then I was going to ask too on that, if after I get everything entered in and I'm being as accurate as I can entering it in, and I run the tests and the calibration for what is X and what did I get, what is Y, what did I get, and then also running to see if I'm level, if that level run is still giving me an arc, even if I entered everything into the down to the 0.5 millimeter, I guess. Do I just play with the other calibration numbers until I work that arc out, even if I end up with numbers entered in, like my motor offset, for example, that is not anywhere close to what I'm actually getting?
Well, you want your motor offset to be what your actual frame is. So when you're typing it in, so I would suggest that doing it multiple times and seeing exactly, especially that distance between, and it's hard to get that distance between it. So you could measure from, instead of trying to measure and trying to guess where the chain is, because it's actually where it's, if the chain was stretched straight across, that is that offset. That's where it is. So if you wanted to measure from like the top of the motor down to your wasteboard, if you can like put like a straight edge ruler there and then measure from that, that would be the correct offset distance that you want to try to get. So it's not from the top of your top beam, it's from where the chain would be if it was stretched across the top. That's the distance that you want. So probably from that side would be a great way to go and a great way to get it.
Okay, and that makes sense. And so I used a series of levels to go straight down from that motor following angle
Perfect.
to make
Yeah,
sure I'm following
that's good.
plumb level. So is it from the top of the chain link or from the center of the chain link where the end of the tooth on the sprocket would be? Or
It's
does it matter?
from it's from the top for the motor offset. It's from the top where it's going to be going across, and that's like where it, or from the from the motor offset. It's going to be from the 4 o'clock and the 8 o'clock position, and the distance between the wasteboard is from the top.
Okay.
And it's tricky. It's
Okay.
tricky to get those measurements, and they're off by usually, depending on how you made it, by like a couple millimeters or something. So that's why we suggested everybody does that instead of just like build the frame and then do it. It has to kind of know where it's going.
Okay. And then when you mentioned the getting the wasteboard itself flat, I guess same question. I want to get it as flat as I can, but using an 8-foot straight edge and some shims. So it looks like it's, less than a millimeter out of flat. But is that enough to throw it off, do you think?
No, that should be good. If you're within a millimeter on the wasteboard, that's awesome. Yeah, that should be fine. Yeah, it's the big bow is when it's like, an inch or a centimeter or something like that, where it's really just like bowing out or bowing back.
Oh, I see. Okay.
So yeah, you should be good with that.
Okay, great. Thank you so much.
Yeah, you bet. All right, everybody's back at that workshop. See you over there. How's it going, man? What's that Maker Made sign you guys made? Is that acrylic?
That's not the acrylic one. That's the painted one. We made a mask and painted it, but we still have to make the acrylic one. And then we sent. I think we already mailed that plate to Chris. I don't know if he got it yet. We got to send you some stuff.
I mean, yeah, I'll take stuff.
Yeah. So that's so Drew painted on his wasteboard, and then mine over here is the one that's been used the most. But dude, like, one of my gears ripped itself off last night. I had to repair it.
What happened? Did it get caught in the wood?
No, I think the set screw started to back out, and I wasn't paying attention. And I looked up as soon as it plinged off. That was my bad. I didn't tighten it.
Nice. So what happened to the sled? Did the sled like death machine
Yeah.
We're still on and everything?
But it's fine. No, yeah, it hit the. So you remember how we made those? We made the metal plates instead of bricks, and we put the
weights,
the powder coated plates. Yeah, it landed on the plates, and then straight down. Totally fine.
But it didn't rip your router bit off or anything.
No.
Crazy.
No, it just happened to be right at the end of a cut where it homed and was traveling, and it was traveling back to home, and it just fell right off and slammed. The chain came flying straight at me, and the thing went everywhere. And I don't know if you can see in the corner, but like the chain, the spring, it wasn't because of that, but the spring finally like stretched itself right there on the end.
I see. Like Mike's spring was, like stretched out.
Yeah, I was doing a job, and that's the supplied spring. That's not the Home Depot one, and it just pulled itself.
Yeah. Do you need a new one?
I'm making do with it for now. We could probably do one later. Oh, and I got the 15 footers, so I'm gonna add those in here in a little bit. I'm gonna replace those.
And thank y'all so much for getting us here so quick. Hey,
yeah.
Will it affect that spring? Well, it shouldn't affect it.
You shouldn't do
It's
anything.
not tension.
Yeah.
What's up? I'm sorry. What'd you say, Drew?
The spring should be fine, right?
Okay. I mean, as long as it's not like super stretched out, like that one that Mike had yesterday, where it was just like, there was no spring left. It was just a wire.
Mike, you need to do so what we're doing is we're doing a wall of oops or a wall of fail. Dude, you need to like take that spring and that chain and put it on make yourself a wall. Oh, he disappeared.
Yeah, I've got my 3D printed my wall of it's a box of my fail prints that I use for trainings and talking about the stuff like that too. It's the same way. Yeah, it's just like because it looks great. Giant piles of spaghetti look pretty cool when they
Yeah, right. It's great. Oh, he liked your sign.
Oh yeah.
There's the mask.
Yeah.
That's cool.
That's good. I thought it'd be kind of fun. Y'all have a perfect logo. Your logo is clean, and like I like the logo. So.
Yeah, it looks great. Nice work, guys. What kind of projects have you been working on? Have you guys been prototyping for anybody that you can talk about, or?
Yeah, and I just finished cutting a custom speaker box for somebody. So like right now, I deal with a lot of people that are in stage production, performance shows, theater, movies, whatever. And this guy, he came to the realization that with COVID and with the way that the industry is getting back into business, they're doing these like distance events, right? Where either it be a drive-in or people are sitting in these little pods away from each other. So the challenge with stage production, with performing arts or DJs or bands or whatever, those speakers are normally set up for wide throw shorts, right? So that's why you see like on big festivals, every so often there's a stack through the crowd all the way back. So what he's came up with was he designed a model that actually takes the cone and readjusts the sound into a long, narrow field to shoot it way out into the crowd. So we built him.
Oh, nice. So it changes
over there behind.
Sound works to like.
Yep.
So I'm a musician, so I understand what.
There it is back there.
I did like stage. I had a job where I did stage sound and stuff like that too, and trying to mess with all of the, like the sound and the short throw and getting all the speakers to talk to each other. And yeah, there's so much science behind of just like the angle of that.
Oh, yeah.
Like shoot it out. So that's awesome.
Yeah, so that's the box to handle it and house it. And then he actually did the baffling is custom there. He used some software to generate it. He didn't know anything. He knows how to generate sound profiles, but he doesn't know anything about CAD and development. So I taught him how to do the CAD, and then he sent me the file and I cut it out. And then we also 3D printed the cone modifier or the port modifier to do the narrowing.
That's awesome. Yeah. So yeah, that I mean,
I keep meaning to buy one of those 3D printers. But
is that a specialized thing that you guys do, or like just in your area? Or is that something that you guys could have like on your website for anybody who wants to?
Yeah.
That seems like that's something that would be very valuable in the times, because I miss going to concerts myself. So
we're going to collaborate with him now that we've built this one. I've been talking to him. I'm like, look, I love sound and everything, but I don't have the software or the know-how to do the spec, and he isn't good at CAD. So I'm like, dude, I'll cut in CAD if you design. I'll tell you what I want to do, and then we'll just go together, and then we can put that offering out and have it be like something we pump out for people.
That's usually what we get. We get people come to us. So products isn't really our big thing. We made a sign for somebody's office. We get like. We get people come to us when they have crazy ideas, like, hey, I want to figure out, I need somebody to think of a way to make this shit.
Think outside the box. Because like you guys could do like our marketplace. If you work with him, you could post that in the marketplace, just the files and the instructions. If he was cool with that, and sell it even in our marketplace. So
see, I want to do that. Oh, y'all are gonna be a news story. So I just did a news story. We just did a news interview, and so I talked about y'all. They were doing one about us and like interesting things, and I talked about they're coming to a photo shoot tomorrow, but I was telling them, they're like, so what do y'all love about things? And I was like, so I talked about y'all's company. I said, there's companies out here we love doing. So there's things like, I told them how, the ShopBot. One of the reasons we're able to do this is companies like Maker Made. We can't afford ShopBot. We don't have $40,000, $50,000 for ShopBot.
Space for a ShopBot.
Yeah. And we can't afford those things. We can't afford maintain them. And there's companies like Maker Made have done an amazing job of taking open source, they've done things and enable people like us to do things. And so I did a whole segment talking about y'all a bit, because y'all are perfect examples of that. So I'll send it to y'all when it comes out.
Yeah, that sounds great.
Supposed to come to a photo shoot tomorrow. So, but I was like, without companies like these guys and what they do, we want to be able to be doing what we're doing. So
yeah,
Drew, that would make a lovely review on our website.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll do that too.
That'd be awesome.
Spot,
So
Yeah.
So Robert, I saw you asked if I have a collection of 3D printed things. So yes and no. I've got the where is it?
It's funny.
I've got a hose adapter that I made that I want to make for all kinds of different hoses. so you can do for dust collection. And then we also have a guide as well to help center the router bit. So I mentioned earlier about making sure that that router bit is in the center. So we have that too. Those are the two main things that I have. And then there's clamp ones as well that you can print for your 71 or your 91 millimeter clamp to fit different size routers and different types of router types. So those are
Is that guy?
But I don't have all those on the marketplace. I know I keep talking about the marketplace, but sometimes there's just not enough time in the day to do stuff. It's we have that, and that's stuff that's going to be on there. And there's already some 3D printed stuff on the marketplace for the M2, but I don't have those things from me out there yet. And then
we're looking forward to the guide.
So if you have any questions though, we're here to help.
We're looking forward to the guide. I'm waiting for that one, the centering guide. I'm waiting for that piece.
Yeah, the other thing I'm going to get, I still, if I can, if y'all could shoot me an email with the vectors for the sled, because I have the sled, and so I was playing around. But yeah, the dust collector would be cool.
Can you email me? Can you?
Yes, I'll email you. Yeah, it's Patrick at Maker Made, right?
I'm not Patrick. I'm Drew. I'm on Patrick's account, but.
Oh, yeah. That's like wait.
Yeah, I'm on Pat. I kicked Patrick off of.
So you're DREW at Maker Made.
Yes, DREW at Maker Made. Yeah. So if you send,
I think I remember that.
And that goes for anybody, because if you want those 3D printed files, send me an email and I'll send them to you. I just haven't got them in the email.
Yeah, because I'm gonna do that. Then I do want to buy one of y'all's 3D printers here once we get the cop a little bit, because I want to put one on display here, so we have like a little Maker Made section, so when people come in they can see stuff. So that'll be my next thing I'm gonna purchase. But yeah, I was gonna make some sleds. I made this one, but I did the CAD kind of myself on this one, and so I didn't get the dust collection area.
Is that out of acrylic? Did you cut it out?
Yes, I was gonna do about acrylic, so it's a thick, like that half acrylic.
Yeah, like the whole thick acrylic.
Yeah, so and I also put y'all's logo on it or something like that, so it'd be cool.
Awesome. So yeah, we got a couple more minutes. If anybody has any questions about anything. I know Robert's still getting his measurements all lined up.
Hey, we got original backboard on y'all's. I got one for you. So when you look at y'all's original marketing stuff like that, you had a really cool backboard for the Maker Made. So y'all's original frame was like with the curves and all that stuff.
Oh, that was tested. Wasn't that tested that designed that with you guys?
The one that like sticks, that has the like edges.
Yeah, that looks so cool.
Yeah, so that's Bar's like original design. So and that was the original Maslow frame design that was on tested and stuff like that too. So yeah, that was the original design that was replaced with the spring. So so where you don't need to have those anymore. But it had like a weight and pulley system, I believe.
Yeah.
But I haven't used it, so I don't know.
I just love the shape of it. It looks so cool.
It looks wild.
I was thinking about building one just as we got to rebuild that third one here pretty soon. And it'd be cool to do one that looks like that, because this just looks so cool. We put the spring system on it, but just have it do the with that cool background.
Like giant, baby Yoda ears or something. That's like
yeah. I think it flexes too much too in forward and back.
Oh, is that what it would do? Yeah,
because
I think that there was like problems with the bungees. I think the bungees stretched over time, and that would degrade the accuracy of it. But I'm not 100% on the rest of those details.
I remember it well.
Cool. Well, yeah, I'll email you, because if I get these, I'll cut one of these today.
Yeah, send me an email and I'll get it out there.
Sweet.
I want to get all the M2 guides done first before I get that stuff on the marketplace. So that's my top priority right now, is getting.
Yeah, you're fine. I haven't had time. I haven't had a chance to get with the marketplace stuff yet. I was just having fun with some of the other things. Did y'all get the bricks? Chris isn't here today.
No, the ones. Did you send Chris the file?
No, I made some bricks. I made it.
Yeah, you showed me those. Those powder coated ones. Yeah, those are awesome. Yeah, because I mean, we talked about that too. Just like it's heavy to ship those suckers across.
Oh yeah, no, I was just making that for y'all for fun. I'm not gonna put those on the marketplace. And I don't even know where I don't know how much that metal would cost. That metal was scrap metal that I bought, but that was a big block. That's got to be like an $1,800 piece of metal. Yeah.
Yeah, it's expensive. Like UPS and FedEx have cheaper rates for heavier stuff, but it's the heavier something gets, it does get more expensive. I
just figured we had a big chunk of that left. I figured I'd make y'all some for fun, just I could use it for something else.
Cool. Yeah, pretty awesome.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah, it's just those.
I can send y'all. You want me to send y'all a stencil? I could. It folds in half.
You send me the
I've
file.
been training people how to do stencils and stuff like that. So
Can you send? Can you send me the file and then we can cut it?
Yeah, I just vectorized your logo.
Okay.
I just laser cut it. It's not a cardboard. It's just laser cut out cardboard. I use old TV boxes.
Yeah. Threw it in Lightburn.
Yeah.
What kind of laser cutter do you have?
We have a Thunder laser, which is a 900 by 500 by, I don't remember what the Z is. We have a Orion, which is a 7 by 5.
They're 120 watt, 130 watt, 120 watt, and a 50 watt. And then I have a Glowforge too. We don't use a Glowforge as much anymore though. And then we have also
do you like your Glowforge?
I do love the Glowforge. We really like the Glowforge. But once you get to bigger lasers, honestly, if you're a maker and what y'all doing, you would much prefer, because there's so much more stuff. So if you're using the Rudia controllers and stuff, or a Glowforge is great for somebody that just wants a little shop. Like it doesn't have techie makers. If you're a true maker, the Glowforge is not great for you.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of Glowforges in schools. That's been in like in maker spaces and stuff. That's where I've seen a lot of Glowforge stuff, just because that was what their main like marketing push, and that's where.
Well, that's what's crazy is
it's perfect to be introduced to laser cutting. So.
Well, where Glowforge is interesting though, so it's super simple to use and everything else. But I had an issue with my Glowforge where it died. The controller died on it, and I emailed them. I was just out of warranty, like a month out of warranty, and so I called them. And I was like, hey, and so I sent it back to them. They finally sent it back. They're like, well, the first one I said, it's not gonna be under warranty. You're out of warranty by a month. And I was like, okay, well, that's fine. I sent it back. And then they were like, oh, I was like, it's this controller. And I was like, it's the controller. And they said, like, yeah, it's the controller, but we can't do anything for you. You just have to buy a new one. I'm like, I can't spend $6,000 on it or $5,000 on it. And it was the plus or whatever. I was like, y'all can't just replace the controller. Like, no, you have to just buy a whole new one. I'm like, really? And so they were kind of like short and rude with me, and so
whereas in the other ones, you just buy a new Rudia and pop it in there.
Yeah, and so I was surprised because I do like Glowforge, and so we got a bunch of news stories because we were making PPE, we were all over the news, and we made was it USA Today or one of those, and so all of a sudden they were really nice. They saw the news story and they saw the Glowforge the news story, and so they sent me they still charged me $750, but they ended up replacing for $750. But Dremel is another.
At least they replaced it.
Yeah. Well, and Rudius and all that, you can also mod them how you want to. So there's a lot of stuff you can mod. Like ours are modded. Like, and then the Thunder laser, actually, we got that one because it caught on fire. One of our friends had caught it on fire, and the whole thing went up in flames. And so a bunch of
stuff. Cutting it caught on fire, or like the
control? The material caught on fire, and the whole machine went up in flames. They weren't standing next to it, so the steppers caught on fire, all the belts melted, all that. And so they're like, "Hey, do you want this?" And so I bought some new controllers for. I bought some new stepper drivers, and then I bought some new steppers, and then I called Thunder Laser to get the parts, and they were super nice. Thunder was like awesome. They're like, hey, they're like, with COVID right now, we can't get any parts for this thing. So I took old plotters. I had some old plotters I had scrapped, some old black and white plotters I had in back, and so I rebuilt the whole thing out of old copiers and plotters. And so so you can't do that with the Glowforge. So I was able to rebuild the whole thing and run it. Even Thunder Laser, the owner of Thunder Laser, was super excited. Like, that's awesome.
Because they use like similar parts. Exactly.
Yeah. I mean, it was just driver belts, just 25mm driver belts.
And with the exception of like the Warren gear, these motors are difficult to get. They're very specialized, but everything else is like very DIY. Same with 3D printing too. Like I'm a big fan of making 3D printers that all have similar parts, so you can interchange them and you can put stuff together on them that use like similar core features, like material extrusions and V-track systems and stuff like that. Or if you're going to do rails, you can find tons of rails, linear rails and stuff like that. So that's awesome that you just got to use all those parts for it. Right on.
Well, how have y'all's 3D printers been doing pretty well?
Yeah.
Yeah. I honestly think
I'm not gonna tell you how many, but like, yeah.
No, yeah. But I'm just saying it's because I think y'all are primed for 3D printers. Because honestly, so the other thing I really love is my Dremel. So we have tons of 3D printers. We have probably 30, 40 3D printers at least, and a lot of them I have tons of Maker bots. Everybody buys Maker bots, and they can't stand them, so they dump them off us. I have so many Maker bots, and even the brand new Maker bots.
Got more than I do. I've only got like 15 3D printers in my house.
Well, because all our friends buy 3D printers, like, I'm gonna start 3D printing, and I'm like, yeah, guys, even if you have a super simple 3D printer, it's not that easy. You're gonna it's gonna get frustrated quickly, and we just end up with all these 3D printers. But I think y'all are primed for that, because the way y'all do the mass loss and everything, that's the way y'all done that. Y'all's mentality and everything is prime. I think y'all could actually do something different. Dremel was really good with me. I'll give y'all the little hint with them. They did with their y'all's printers way better, but their support, I burned up one of the heads. I was putting carbon through it, and I overrode the firmware and did it to 260 degrees, literally melted the whole entire hot end. And I called them like, hey, how much is it for a new hot end? I completely melted this thing. They're like, oh, we'll send you a new one. I was like, yeah, I've avoided the warranty on this thing. Like, we don't care. And then they were good. And then a year later, it's been out of warranty for like 2 years. I bricked it. And so I call them, and their engineers, their techs are actually the support people are actually the techs working on the printer, which is crazy. So she's like, oh, I was like, oh, can we just check the board? She's like, you know how to take it apart? I'm like, yeah. She's like, oh, awesome. She's like, I'll walk you through it, check the firmware. I'm like, are you actually one of the techs? She's like, yeah, we're all the techs are the people who do the answerless phone support, which is cool.
That's awesome.
And so they found it, and they're like, we'll just send you a new one. 2 years out of warranty. They just sent me a brand new one. No questions asked. They even over $900. So I think y'all are like that. I think y'all have the ability. I think y'all can be.
Because we already do that.
I know, but I'm saying with y'all's 3D prints, y'all already do that. I think y'all's 3D printing and all that. I think that's y'all are going to be able to be like a huge player. I think y'all become the next key player.
So you do 3D laser.
My old company did that with schools. So like that was the whole thing. Like I sold 3D printers to schools for 5 years. I found educational 3D printing company, and now I work with Maker Made. Like I just started with Maker Made in the summer.
Cool.
So like. That was what we did. So that's my bread and butter. So yeah, I'm all about doing that support and being there for customers.
So you're doing
to make projects.
So you're doing the Maslow, the 3D printers, and now the laser add-ins, right? So you basically are covering all the. Is there anything else in the pipe?
Yeah, but I can't.
You can talk about. But I think that's all you really need.
We want to do everything like. The
vertical plasma,
like DIY thing. We want to have it to where you can be empowered with digital manufacturing, whether you're a hobbyist working for a business or in a school, with all the tools that you need. So the laser is still in development. We've run into some stumbling blocks with that, but it's
we'll help y'all beta test that. If y'all have things that you want to beta test, we got an extra one beta test the hell out of it.
Like the new 3D printer that launched, that we just launched, we're working on that one too, and we've got more 3D printing CNC and laser in the pipeline, and especially apps to make it all easier to talk to each other. So Makerverse is going to expand a lot as well. So there's lots of fun stuff coming in 2021. We're really pumped about it.
That's why I tell people to go with y'all. Like, look, there's a lot of things. 3D printers. Everybody's buying 3D printers. I'm like, I have friends recommending. I've been recommending y'all's 3D printers now to them, because I'm like, look, you need if you're not used to 3D printing, you need a company that's going to be able to support you. If you don't, you're screwed. And it's like, right now, the only company I recommend is you guys. So it's because that's for the 3D printers. They're gonna get frustrated. But Dale's right. We need to try to attach a plasma. Has anybody tried attaching a plasma cutter to the end of the mass off?
Not that I've seen. I've seen metal with like metal bits and ladders, but I haven't seen anybody do plasma on it. But that's like another safety. There's a couple safety things involved in that too.
We're good.
So no, I haven't seen anybody do that.
Okay.
I'm gonna make a grid.
Yeah, we should. We do a metal back. Yep. Because you can't do a water table. It'd be but interesting. But yeah, that'd be cool. But no, yeah, if y'all want, I definitely referring. I think y'all have so pride when I see the 3D printers. I'm like, that's perfect. And the way y'all are thinking things and doing things, y'all that's exactly what people are good. The new users coming in 3D printing need. So, anyways, but
yeah, and
cool.
I'm gonna get that new guide done. I know that you had to run away, and I was telling Dustin about Dustin, right? I think Dustin, yeah. About the guide, and so that new version with the new frame and the new build instructions and all that, I'd love for y'all to check that out. So and I'll send that, and we'll post it all next week, so we can get your feedback, because I want to get feedback from users from it too. So that'd be awesome.
I'm down. Hey, Mike, come back, Mike.
Hey, if I email you this, Drew, do you think you said, is there any way you could email me these? If you have these on file, you can email these to me today or no?
The SVG?
Just the SVG for the board. Sweet. Yeah, because I couldn't find it. So that'd be
email
awesome.
me.
Sweet. I'll email you here in a few.
We don't have it posted yet. We actually, think still need to test it. So I think the last time, and I'm not
I'll
sure.
test it and see what happens.
I'm not an M2 dev development. I'm not in the M2 dev, but I think that they have a file that they're testing. So we'll send it to you but it might not be the exact file, and you can let me know if it works.
That's fine. We'll try that. And if you have stuff like that, so we're training a lot of people too. And so Gaston's been, that's where we're gonna have them working with. So we're trying to do some work with stuff. And so like we can use like some people, we'll have them sign NDAs or whatever we need to do. But if y'all want to test things, we could have people just like testing here because it helps us. It helps us train people to how to use the Maslows. We need to train them, and it helps. And then so in the training, we could have them working with those test things. That way, we know if they work or not. I mean, so it's a good. We have people sitting here doing other stuff, having them make like I don't know how we have them make something useful.
Yeah, shoot me an email and I'll email it to you for sure.
I have a question for Mike. Mike, are you back? Did you walk away? Do you remember last week? Didn't he mention those holes in his board? Didn't he mention something about he made a file that those are specifically measured apart? Yeah, I want to know what's in them though. Is it just for pegs? There he is. Mike, are those just pegs, or you talked about this last week? Are those pegs, or do you have threads in behind there? Your holes.
Oh, the holes. So there's a standard. It's European, and it's pretty prevalent in like cabinet making, finished carpentry, and if you woodworking. A superstar company in that space, Festool. So Festool, Festool. They have a work table they call the MFT. And it kind of seems to have just popularized it. And so what you see on mine uses that, which is a 96 millimeter grid of just holes. They're just holes for.
Okay, so you don't have those cleats in the back, right? No threads, cleats. Just a hole.
Right. No cleats, no threads. And there's lots of different like dogs that you can use. These are like super extreme version of a dog that has these O-rings in it that you would then tighten down on, and that's going to give you the
That's cool. I want to make that.
Yeah, but just there's lots of different. It's a standard. It's a 20 millimeter. You can buy lots of different third parties are doing it. 20 millimeter on a 96 millimeter grid, and mostly used. I think a lot of it is around track saws. So you can use it to as like to get a perfect cross cut or a perfect rip on a 8-foot sheet of good, etc.
Okay, sweet.
And the tool that I showed last week,
yes,
is as good or better than you're gonna get from, I shouldn't say as good or better as CNC, but a full-on CNC you probably can't beat. But out of CNC, get you as perfect as you can get. This system.
How are you keeping from impacting and everything? Because these don't really have like a regular CNC where you say don't go to this zone. Like you don't have tool awareness. So what are you doing? Like those are your hold downs, or those are just your guides, or what?
Oh, this equipment here. You're talking about these are just for drilling the holes.
Oh, okay, that's it.
Those are
Got it.
Yeah, it's a system. You'll find it on YouTube. Parts Guide, PARF Guide. Look up that. It's kind of expensive, as you could probably tell by the quality of the parts.
Oh yeah.
But it uses the Pythagorean theorem to get your 3, 4, 5 grid and Perfect 93. Kind of figured when I started all this that I was probably not going to get the accuracy out of the out of the M2 that I would want to do, say, cabinet making. So I figured, you know what, I'm just going to start with this and use it to get the M2 right on. Yep.
Sweet.
So, oh, that's awesome. I watch all of. I subscribe to his stuff. He's.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, he's pretty cool.
All right,
The new
subscribe.
bit, yeah. I went about this a little bit backwards. What you'd expect. I used standard woodworking tools to my M dialed to dial my speed, right?
I got a question for y'all. I really enjoy just like hanging out and talking to y'all and doing like, I know this isn't really the training, maybe not the training specific stuff that this Zoom is supposed to be. So what do you guys think about like a beer 30 type thing for just makers in like the community to just like hang out and talk projects and do that kind of thing that like maybe even one of y'all hosted that anybody could join, that then any makers could join, and then maybe, you know, some of us from Maker Made could join as well, but like y'all would be like running it and hosting it and doing that like a community led type of.
So we've got a full production studio now. We've got a full TriCaster in the whole 9 yards, so we can do all the streams and all that. I traded my boat for a TriCaster setup. So I mean, we could do. That'd be cool because I think honestly, I think
just like literally like this, but on, you know, like a Friday from you know, like 5 to 7 or something, where anybody could just get together and talk about projects, and it's like it's not Maker Made led, it's community led. So it'd be like.
Well, I think that'd be wonderful, and I think you record it and podcast it. I think you record it and post it, and that way people subscribe.
We record it. Yeah, we can do that.
And I think what it do is it'd get you the people coming in needing the education, the sports stuff. I think it'd help get more people coming in for the sports stuff for this because it'd bring awareness to the sports stuff, which would shift this to the sports stuff.
Yeah, so because we want this to be like with what Robert's working on his frame and stuff like that to kind of like help everybody get going. I mean, but it's still fine that y'all are in here talking. I'm not saying don't show up. But just like another like more specific, we're just going to talk projects and development or, you know, whatever. But it's like anything that you guys, it's just like anything goes, maker hangout type thing.
I think it'd be wonderful. It'd be nice to have that. So yeah,
okay.
We could help try to put that together. It'd be fun to get like the people that be coming in on this, like Mike and stuff like that. What you're doing, because that's awesome. I like what you're doing, Mike. It's like it'd be fun to have those things too. I think that would also.
Cool.
And I think that would help too, get people to specific questions for this thing. For when they get to this day, they're ready to have more detailed specific.
And we could say like,
questions.
we could help with some tech support, but it's like, you know, we would try to make it, more specific toward like training and stuff. All right. Well, we're at the end of our hour and a half. So Robert, do you have any more questions or anything before we jump off here? You feeling all right? That's all right. Drew and Mike, you guys good? You got any more questions for us?
I'm good. I emailed you on the stuff. Okay. So cool. We should have, what do you call it? Oh, there it goes. Now it's right. I emailed you on the, what do you call it? The SVG. So if you have SVG, like a flat file too,
yep,
or a
I got
file,
it.
that'd be awesome.
I got your email right here.
Okay, cool.
Okay, cool. All right, guys.
Okay, have a good one.
Thanks a lot for joining.
Thank you.
Yeah.
One thing real quick. Are you still there? Yeah. We didn't really get to it today, but my one thing I was going to ask about is people's workflows on the software side. So you guys may have talked about it and I missed it.
I'll think about that. We need to get better with the guide and get that in the manual. So absolutely. Yeah. I'll work on that. And like, how do you get from idea to reality?
Yeah. And heads up, you know, what I'm interested in, and hopefully this will be something you guys can help with or talk about in this space is personally, I'm all in on SketchUp, and I would love a process to get from SketchUp to probably SVG to probably easel or something beyond easel, but not Fusion 360 in my case. I just don't have
absolutely. Yeah, I've talked to Nick too about like hosting classes and doing classes about like how to design and then get to cutting or to get to printing and stuff like that. So yeah, For sure. I'll think about that when I'm going through on the guide and make sure that that's really clear.
All right, cool.
All right. We'll see you, Mike.
And Drew, this is Robert.
Yeah, Robert, did you get it going?
Yeah, well, sorry, I was on mute before. I think I'm much closer. Now it's actually curving up, but
Okay.
or
So that means
arcing up, but I'm dialing it in.
close
I'm
to the
getting much
measurements
closer.
then.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. So I'll
Sweet.
keep
Yeah.
at it. Thank you so much for your help.
It's you bet. And you can kind of work on some of those different numbers. And if you're having problems with it not getting quite lined up, like it might be that center, make sure that you've measured the exact center. And then when you change it, you always use the work offsets. Don't just make the center somewhere else. So always make sure that the center is the exact center of your board.
Oh, I see. Well, I'm definitely haven't been doing that. I started with, because I'm at the 12-foot beam, I was using a 30-inch offset is what I read in the forums.
Okay.
And then from there, I went another 24 inches down to find the middle of my 4-foot tall waist. And that's where I set it.
Okay. So you measure your wasteboard yourself, like manually, and then like draw a little X on it, and then jog the sled to where that is, and then reset your home on top of that X. And then try again and make sure that it's in the exact like measured center of your wasteboard. And see if that can help you, because that might be why the measurements are like it was going down, now it's going up, because it's not quite getting where the center is.
I see. Okay. And does the proportion of, because I'm on the bigger setup, the 12-foot instead of the 10-foot, does that proportion that's called out for in the instructions on a standard 10-foot beam? I forget what the dimension is from wasteboard to beam.
It's about 18 inches. And you're over that, so you're good. It does need to be higher, and I think it should be fine. I'm not 100%. I personally haven't played with the 12-foot beam, but I'm pretty sure that as long as you're above that, 30 inches should be good to rock.
Okay, well, I'll keep playing with it. Thank you for your help.
You bet. Yeah, let us know if you need anything, and you're always free to join next week or ask any questions in the group or email us, and we're here to help.
We'll do that. Thank you.
All right. See you, Robert.